Greetings. My name is Leroy Trusty. I'm the Director of E-Learning at Hartford Community College. I wanted to talk about classroom technology. And really, how do we design a classroom that will fit our needs and that will fit the needs of the student? Now, as we look at the screen, what you see is the classroom. And as I'm looking at the classroom, and I walk around the campus and I look into classrooms, and really this is what I see. There's a few things different about the classroom, and I'm going to get into it by presenting with you, walking through a SlideShare presentation to show you what one group did as they discussed the issues of the classroom design and technology. As a way of, two things. One, show you that you can use other materials to teach your class. That's one thing. You're able to use some of these things because they're out there and they're in the open. So you can always use them. Plus, take a look at how do we design a classroom that fits today's model. What's today? What do we see today? I want you to think of a couple of things. I want you to think about where it is you go to meet your friends. Where do you go when you want to socialize with people? Where do you go when you really sit down and talk to somebody and really want to understand what it is that they're saying? So let me go ahead and we'll get this started here. This comes out of Visioning Tomorrow's Classrooms, and this was accomplished in 2009, and a lot has changed since then. I went to an EDUCAUSE conference last year, and it was amazing what all that was there for that. So let's go ahead and go through the SlideShare presentation. Visioning Tomorrow's Classrooms. Here's a setup as to how we are going to present this, what we're going to look at, the design, how it can facilitate teaching and learning. Who are our students? Take a look at who our students are today. Who are they? What do they like to do? Where do they hang out? What is it what do they enjoy? And so as we go through this, let's just take a look. Oh, there's our classroom. No, wait a minute. This is an old classroom. We see pictures of this as we go on tours of old schools. But then, what does the current classroom look like? Now, this has got a blackboard in it, and I worked at a school that 3 years ago, we got rid of our last blackboard. I mean, when I say blackboard, we use chalk. The reason we got rid of the chalk, and let me tell you, there were faculty screaming about this, is because the chalk was screwing up the projectors and the computers. So we replaced it with a whiteboard, and that took a lot of doing. Now, what do we see as far as the similarities or the differences? You know, we've just updated the old stuff. And what the presenter here wants to look at, we're going to look at the University of Minnesota's classroom library. Just to give you an idea. This is an interesting design. It's not the typical lecture style room. And I've been in those long rooms with tables that stretch all the way across and trying to engage students. And I found that is difficult. I have a design idea. I like the horseshoe shape. And I've taken classrooms and rearranged them only to get that letter the next time around that I didn't put the tables back exactly the way they were supposed to be, and it kind of messed with somebody's mind. But here's a setup where we have a classroom with round tables. Now we kind of look at that and say, well, how does that facilitate teaching? Take a look at the pictures. You'll see different monitors up there. You'll also find that there's a projector that projects out some information. I'm going to assume that it's got an ideal wireless system. That's going to be my impression. What we see, again, another view of it from a different angle. This is how it looks with students involved in it. We see the monitor. If you notice, the monitors up there have different images on them as well as what's on the projection. There's a reason for that. We use different technology to get students involved, whether it's be a website, maybe it's a Twitter page that we have up, maybe we have We're using a polling system that is on a separate monitor. There's a lot of different things that you can do to present your class in a way where students learn. I like some of the ideas that they published here. Technology-rich environments, new modalities for teaching and learning, flexible physical spaces. We take a look at a classroom. What do we need to do to change it and bring it on? This is another view of a classroom, and this could be where maybe they're working with somebody elsewhere. They're watching a video. It's hard to say, but they're in a circle. They're in a round. They have, and if you take a look around, you got boards all over the place. Some ways where students can identify some ideas as they're going along. One of the things we talk about is using the cell phone in our classroom. We tweet our questions or maybe our answers to the instructor while the instructor is working with others, so that everybody gets to see those. Here's another setup as far as a learning center way of looking at it. Still some of the old stuff up there, the whiteboards, flip charts, and such, but yet the students are in a circle. They're moving around, able to work together. This looks like a mismatch, and I know it frustrates a lot of faculty when they see this, especially if they like the organized stuff. But here's where you have students working in pods or groups, and in the flipped classroom, this is exactly how you want it. You don't want a lecture-style classroom when you have a flipped classroom. And if you need more information on flipped classroom, we can definitely talk about that. Another example of a classroom setup and how students are working with different tools. This is one way to look at it out of the University of Washington. Very interesting classrooms up there. Again, here's our classroom changed around. This just another way of looking at it. We have the looks like the science classroom. We see this in the nursing facilities. We see this in some of the healthcare courses. A way of we can range the classroom up in a lecture style. We can set it up in circles. We can set it around the instructional area. The beds are patients. Another science room. And again, just working in different pods. Now, lecture halls, they're still out there. How are some of the lecture halls set up? This is a new design for a lecture hall, where it's in a half circle, a half horseshoe, if you want to call it that. So you have better involvement with the students. They can see the students that are around them. Another one, multiple screens, being able to use the screens, again, each one having something different on it. So what are some of the classrooms? Again, the circular tables with multiple boards, multiple projectors, multiple monitors. Another one set up in, these look like crosses or L's or T's. Another way to set up a classroom. And of course we look at what our writing surfaces are, what we have. First time I saw this was at Microsoft facilities down in Washington, D.C., where they write on the doors. Writing surfaces all over the place to get information out. There's a college in Colorado Springs, Colorado College, that has rooms that all four walls is a writing surface from top to bottom. You can purchase the paint in most hardware stores or paint shops that you can just paint the wall in whiteboard, and it makes it easy to clean off. You can always touch up if necessary, and then I find that very interesting as well. Just an example. Again, here's a room that looks like from ceiling to floor, some board. You can pick up boards at most, like Home Depots and Lowe's and such, that are 8 foot, just like a piece of plywood, 8 by 4. and you can mount those to the wall. Gives you a large writing surface. Stackable chairs is always good, something that can be moved around. Tables that fold up, that fold down, small enough to move around. That's another way of looking at it. And these are, Leiboff is one of the writers, one of the designers of Classroom's new technology. And it's important to read some of his material because this gives us a better understanding of what all is necessary to create that classroom that is beneficial to our students. And so now in this video, or the slide share, it ends with discussing what that classroom is. But that's the key thing as we take a look at our classrooms, as we take a look at what we have available to us. How do we change it? If we're taking a look at the budget, we got a budget coming up, what do we need to do to change our classrooms? What do we see in a year? What do we see in 2 years? What would make learning better for us? I'll give you a couple of examples. Besides taking the classroom, put it in a horseshoe shape, I would oftentimes encourage the students to have class at a local coffee shop. And this one particular coffee shop had large overstuffed chairs and couches. And so I always encourage the students to get there early and capture that couch, because it sat in front of the fireplace, the couch. We had 2 couches around it, big overstuffed chairs. And believe me, we could get the students in there. And those are times when we really found ourselves in a learning environment. And that was one time. Used that place several times as far as a class, but the one time where we found that learning could be someplace else. And then in another place I used teaching an aviation course, we were actually at an FBO, is what it's called, Field of Base Operations. And so what we would do is we'd meet there in their lounge, and so we'd have activities going on there, and then it made it easy to go out to the aircraft and see what all was about what we were talking about. Another restaurant that we would use was one that had an airplane as part of an airplane. It's Solo's Restaurant in Colorado Springs. And if I'm teaching aircraft design or systems design, it was a perfect place because besides the model aircraft that they had there, it was large aircraft. We talk about some of the design. So there are different ways that we can set up our classes to where we can really encourage learning. So I just wanted to bring this up, identify it, especially when we start talking about flipped classrooms, and there being other videos on that coming out. But I just wanted you to be aware of what there is out there for us as faculty, as far as administrators, as far as designers. How do we get that class functioning for that student? So anyway, that's it. We'll talk more later on this. In the meantime, think about what it is that you see happening in your classroom.